Hello, Horror Fanatics. I'm Frank.
And I'm Jen, and we welcome you to our weekly podcast. The horror.
The horror. Thank you for joining us as we dive deep into all things horror, supernatural, scary, and downright creepy.
If you like what you hear, you can rate, review, subscribe, or follow to add us to your regular rotation of podcasts.
You can do that. You can also submit any ideas, comments, and suggestions to our email address at oth@seriouslydecent.com. You can go to our website at ohthehorrorpodcast.com.
Yeah.
And you can catch the whole entire back catalog. We don't paywall that crap up. It's all there for you.
All the things.
It's all there for you.
Yep.
And let's see. What else can you do there? You can connect to your favorite podcast platform.
Yeah.
You can connect to our YouTube
I was
channel.
going to say, can you connect to the use of tubes?
The tubes.
Tubes.
The tubes of you.
Where are my Gen Xers at? Tubular.
Oh.
It's totally tubular.
So it's been a little wet out here in central New York.
Oh, man. So, by the grace of God, we had an interruption in the rainfall, which has afforded many to be able to mow their lawns. And my goodness.
The creative director is in heaven.
Well, yes, because he gets the fresh cut grass, which apparently is like the delicacy of delicacies.
Aside from fresh goose poop.
Correct. Spring candy.
Spring candy.
Which turns into fall candy in fall.
Yes.
But man, the lawnmowers are taking hurtings because you can hear it. Like, you can hear the lawnmowers that are straining. You can hear, especially with the electric mowers, where they have to stop multiple times to, either get it to restart or empty the bag. Because, I mean, let's just talk about how much the grass has grown. Oy vey. But then you have this second set of circumstances, which is where it's too heavy, it's too much, it's still wet, and the number of people who have had to stop midway and fix their lawnmower so that they could complete their lawn has also been a thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. It just rained for days straight.
Yeah.
Flooding.
Yes.
Flooding.
And in case you missed it,
more flooding. Roads getting washed out.
Yeah. Roads
water
closed.
Seeing water develop in places that you just never even knew water could exist there.
Exactly.
It's like, oh.
How does it get there?
How did that pond get there?
Is that new pond?
Is
that new water feature? Did you put that in yourself?
Did you put that in? Because that was great timing, because all this water came to fill it up.
Right? Yeah. So
today was
we got that.
Today was the first full sunny day.
Well, for us, I know you were out of town yesterday, but
so
for
yesterday
us,
was good?
It was, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was pretty much sunshiny all day.
Well, that's good for the home peeps.
Yeah.
I had a half and half.
Yes.
I had an overcast in the morning and then
peaked
out a bit mid-afternoon.
As soon as you left,
of course,
and the van wasn't in the spot, it was almost like a spotlight in the bedroom. So I was like, well, all right, I guess I'll just get through my God stuff.
Yeah.
And then I started, getting up and taking a shower and doing things. And then Dean was like, yes, she's finally going to do something.
This day was looking stupid.
This was so stupid. And then I came upstairs and I was like, you know what? Still a little early. I'll have like a little light breakfast and Dino and I'll just watch a movie. So I'm upstairs and I was like, all right, let's find something, chill and relax. I like thrillers, horror, scary.
Yeah.
He does not.
No.
So I was like,
Yeah, he's the creative director of a horror podcast.
who's not in here? They're talking about scary stuff this time.
I don't know if he's in here
I'm
anymore
out
because I think it's too cramped in here.
Yeah, I mean, we have multiple bedrooms, but they're not that big. So I found the Nonas movie, which was great until the Nonas started fighting in the kitchen. And then he was like, why is everybody fighting? Why is everybody yelling? And then there was a whole bunch of activity next door because we have that shared driveway.
Yes.
And oh my goodness, everyone, everything was potentially you. No matter how many times I said, dude, he's not coming home today. We aren't going to see him until tomorrow.
Poor guy.
We got to go through the whole day. I guarantee you it is not Dad. And he's like, you don't know. And he stood in that kitchen and he barked at that window, or he would sit there and stare at that, like he was trying to will you to walk through the door. And I'm like, dude, I mean,
he does the same thing with you.
You can do whatever you want, but I can promise you, I will know when Dad's coming home. And he's not coming home now, buddy. And he's like, you don't know.
He does the same exact thing when you're gone. And what's funny is you can tell right away from the bark when it's you coming home.
Oh.
All the false flags are now, of course, that was different in this case because I came right in the middle of the night. And he was all sleepies.
So he's downstairs with me. And for optics, I feed HR at 2 a.m. I give her one of her feedings. It's actually her first feeding for that day.
The first meal she's going to puke up for the day. Yeah.
Dude, it's been okay.
No, that means she's going to live for 27 years, but, you know.
So I feed her. I get back downstairs. I'm all comfy comfs and cozy. And then I hear, and I'm thinking, shit, is he all up in her business? You know, is she trying to get down here? What is going on up there? So I come up the stairs. I'm prepared for it to be a face-off between the two of them. And battle royale.
Yeah.
I'm prepared for that. Instead, I see you come out of your office, and I was like, oh.
Oh, you didn't do,
Oh, thank God.
At first, you had the look of fear in your face.
Because I didn't know what I was walking into. I was like, well, what is even happening right now? Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh, okay. All right.
It was that whole point when I was telling you I was coming home that day. Yeah.
I didn't expect it to be 2:30 in the morning.
Well, I didn't come at 10 p.m.
Because you said you were going to get up early and you were going to hit 8 a.m. mass.
Yeah, that changed, though, obviously.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Well, we're not here for all that kind of stuff.
No.
I do want to say to my best friend and his wife, he celebrated his 50th birthday.
Did you send him his birthday text?
No. I gave him all those presents.
That's true.
And
that's true.
Yeah, I can't spoil him. That's just absurd.
I have made it.
We got him good gifts, though. He was happy about his gifts.
Yes, you did.
And it was a great day. It was a great day to see everybody.
Yep.
Which was nice. And the cool part was everybody was doing good.
Right.
And that's always special.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, where, you know, I want all of them to do well.
Right. You don't want someone to be in turmoil or angst or dealing with something.
That's tough. And for a while there was always one of us that was in something.
Yeah.
And for all of us to, all of us to be in a relatively good space. It was fresh air.
Yeah.
It was definitely fresh air. So today we got the BOGO.
I love BOGOs.
Yep. Season 5, episode 215.
Yep.
I'm doing the Belaire House in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing Orchard Hall in New York.
From right here in...
A stone's throw away. Yes.
Yes.
So, do you want to do? How do you want to do this? You want to do yours first, or do you want me to do mine? Yours is pretty quick, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately,
I mean, mine's quick as well, but
the thing with these two topics is our theme for this, by the way, was haunted houses or supposedly haunted houses.
Yes.
However, it's really hard to find, what's the word I'm looking for? Like legit information.
Yeah, rather than a tourist trap or some sort of bait.
So
thing.
We'll get into this.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 sources. Light98.7.com. And if you're like, what is that? That's a radio station, folks. RoomSentinel.com. And I actually found a lot of great information from an Instagram post from the Historical Society. And I was like, all right,
nice.
This is cool. So let's get into this. Orchard Hall. The roots of Orchard Hall stretch back to 1840 when Captain Abner Bacon, a Revolutionary War hero, settled on the land at 2955 Oneida Street, granted to him by, pause for dramatic effect, President George Washington. He erected the region's first grist mill powered by Sequoia Creek. Orchard Hall is a Sequoia landmark, and for those of you who are like Sequoia, it's a tiny little farming community.
Hamlet.
It's a lovely hamlet.
It's a lovely hamlet. Interesting. The guy who's not from there.
And when you come down Pinnacle Hill, they tell you, welcome to the hamlet of Sequoia.
Well, it is a hamlet.
It is. But it is a Sequoia landmark, and it's had numerous owners, and it's undergone many changes. However, the original building facade still exists. The home was built in 1843 by Chauncey Butler, who was a state senator. For many years, it was known as Butler Hall. One account says it was owned by members of the Butler family until 1920, but other names are connected with the building during those years. They include another state senator, Charles Wicks, who was said to have exchanged it for an apartment building in Utica in 1919. In 1920, John Whipple from Old Orchard, Maine, purchased the building and changed the name to reflect both his hometown and the lovely orchards on the property. Whipple conducted a summer hotel there. During subsequent years, plans were made for a Japanese tea room, a ballroom, and a dining room that would seat 200 people by the next owner, Ralph Collette. The building has served as a private residence and a restaurant, and in 1957, bowling alleys were added. Today, Orchard Hall is a restaurant. Passed down through several owners, it's found its way into the hands of Gary and Sharon Puleo in 1992. Quote, "My husband always loved Orchard Hall," said Sharon. When it went up for sale, he said, "Let's do it." Since then, the Puleo family has welcomed guests with warm hospitality and delicious meals. The ambiance at Orchard Hall is welcoming, with traditional tavern-style decor and attentive service. Gary and Sharon oversee the kitchen, ensuring guests have a delightful experience. Quote, "Meeting the people," Sharon expressed, "is the best thing about belonging to Orchard Hall." The Puleo family added outdoor dining spaces and a banquet room suitable to serve life's grand celebrations. Fine food and gracious service, though, is the legacy Sharon would like her family's chapter to be remembered for. She puts it that way with a quiet but abiding pride, because she has worked really hard on the kitchen staff, the menus, and
it's a nice place.
And they do have good food. The Puleo family when they sold their home, they renovated the upstairs, which I guess at one time it could have been like it was that summer hotel for a while. And what they did was they did a renovation of the upper portion, which would have been the hotel rooms, and they kind of made a family residence out of it. So when they were downsizing, they're like, we'll just, work and live there.
Yes.
And it's convenient. But they're kind of ready to retire. So if you're interested, it is listed for sale. As I mentioned, it is for sale because the Puglios are ready to retire, and they're ready to pass the torch on to new owners who will continue the legacy. It needs new owners, Sharon remarked, to bring new life into it again. As the mansion awaits its next chapter, one relic stands as a testament to its enduring legacy. The Burstone, commissioned in 1792, nestled beside Orchard Hall. It symbolizes the estate's rich history and promises to safeguard its stories for generations to come. And for those of you who are interested, I have some current menu highlights. They can savor signature dishes like bacon wrapped scallops or indulge in daily specials such as meatloaf or prime rib. Families often opt for the affordable family packs, offering a complete meal for $34.95. If you go, they're open from 3 to 9 p.m. Tuesday through Thursday, 3 to 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday, closed Sunday and Monday, except for special events such as they did a Mother's Day brunch this year. And they did serve that brunch. Reservations are recommended. And you can find them on Facebook and the like. So if you're like, hey, none of that said anything about no freaking ghosts.
Exactly.
Here we are.
That's my side of the bench.
But I wanted to give you an idea that this is a really old building on really old land.
It's crazy out here in New York because there's some stuff that's, for United States wise,
yes,
old. In New York, there's a lot of stuff that's old that really isn't in a lot of other places, and they're just random. Like you just find this random stuff like this place, and you're like, oh, okay. So George Washington
gave him the land.
Gave this guy the land right here.
Okay.
In Sequoia.
Fair enough.
Not near anything.
Yes. So I remember reading an article.
First, I think you need to disclose you have a relationship with these people.
My cousin married one of the Julio daughters.
Yes.
So in that regard, yes. But because of where I grew up, like that was the place before they even bought it. Like anytime there was a wedding reception or, we had the Optimists and the Rotary clubs, the volunteer fire departments, like anytime somebody was doing some sort of big banquet or whatever, most of the time it was at Orchard Hall.
Well, there was a pretty good reason for that.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything else.
That's it. Yeah. That's what I'm getting at is like, it's been an institution because it is an institution. Like
yes.
it is still there. It is still functioning. And, there are brief lulls here and there. But for the most part, it's been almost continuous. Like, I can't tell you how many times my parents were going to Orchard Hall for something. But by the same token, it was kind of comforting because you knew they weren't that far. And like you knew where they were, and
sure.
Having been there myself, I was like, "Oh, all right, that's not a big deal." Especially because We lived in the middle of freaking nowhere.
Facts. Those are facts.
But there was an article in the OD, and I believe it was right around the time the Puglios took over ownership. Anytime there's an exchange.
Well, it's big news.
It is. It's huge news.
Because it's the only news.
Correct. It's the good news. And they discovered like a bunch of like rooms and shit in the basement. And like it didn't make sense. It was just like weird. Like there was no reason, no rhyme, no reason to it. And there is speculation, and a lot of local historians believed that the reason for that is because Orchard Hall was a stop on the Underground Railroad. There's nothing that can confirm that. There's nothing that confirmed that they were part of that Underground Railroad that helped the escaped slaves travel
There's a lot
north.
of homes that weren't really, because it was, lack of a better term, underground.
Yeah.
Those spots weren't supposed to be advertised.
Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to be very innocuous, there's a few homes where I'm originally from in the South Glens Falls area in New York. And I was in 2 or 3 places where those were declared spots and the research that they had to do. But they do have those kind of traits where it's a lot of these rooms that are in kind of strange spots, like basements generally, because a basement you can kind of, you don't see, and everything's above. I wouldn't be surprised one bit.
And I remember seeing pictures of it. And I remember looking at the pictures and I was like, yeah, no, that really makes no sense because it is riddled with the passageways. There's nooks. Like there's like little like, instead of a bump out, it's like a bump in.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, so it can be inferred that those nooks may have been used to hide these slaves that are trying to get to Canada to freedom. And thus, there were rumors that because of that, that it was haunted. But the most notable haunting story is that of Julia. And she is reportedly to be part of that whole second floor where the hotel rooms were. The second floor of the building had 9 bedrooms, each decorated in a different color scheme. And Julia is associated with the Red Room. Now, there's no exact history. There's nothing really known. There's speculation as to who she was.
Yeah, there's varying accounts on everything, right?
But she was very much connected with that Red Room, specifically to a rocking chair in that room. It is reported that that chair could be rocking at any time when you're making your way through there. And stories of why that is
yeah, because what is it, like complications in childbirth?
Well, there's a couple. Some stories say that she died in childbirth after she was spurned by a lover. Other stories say that she was shot in the middle of the bar. However, most of the reports is that not that she died during childbirth, but shortly like after. And the rocking chair is supposed to be her rocking her baby.
Okay.
And most of the reports of her appearances are associated with just that room. Like, she's not known to be in the bar area. She's believed to be a benevolent spirit. And the most common activity is just that rocking chair. And they say that, again, they believe that she is in the chair rocking her baby.
She downstairs spiking people's decaf coffee and putting booze in people's sodas. She a jokester.
No, she's not. She doesn't blow on the back of people's necks. She doesn't whisper in people's ears. She doesn't pinch or tickle anybody. She doesn't
she's just chilling out.
Yeah. She's just minding her own business. But I asked Melissa, and she's like, one, I don't go up there.
She doesn't?
Nope. She's like, two, I don't know. She's like, I've never experienced anything. She goes, but I also don't put myself
in that situation.
Correct. Yeah. Because they are associated with it. You know, I asked my cousin, and super helpful. No. Cool. Thanks. Appreciate that. But you know, there are stories. There have been several people in one of the articles I was reading that I chose not to use for this was supposed to be a paranormal investigation group who I don't know that they officially asked for permission, and they happened to be there. And this chick, oh my God, I took my camera and I went upstairs, and I was immediately hit with like this weird feeling.
That's
and I was like, of course you were hit with a weird feeling, sweetheart. But I've been there 1,000 times. I've never had any sort of anything.
I have a weird presence around this kind of stuff because I don't get much of it at all anywhere. Mm-hmm. I've gone to places where people talk and they're like, "Oh, it's haunted as shit." And, you know,
that's hella haunted.
Yeah, I walk in there and there's absolutely nothing going on. So I don't know.
So that's Orchard Hall. I mean, if you're
I've always had a pleasant experience every single time I've gone there.
Same. Well,
regardless of what it was. And I've been there for a few things. I was there for they had that kind of craft fair thing every year they do through there, and that's always pleasant. But I've also gone there to, I think it was some sort of like, not a reception, but some sort of like catered thing they were doing, and we were involved. And it was a couple of those. And
we went to a couple. They were both related to funerals. It was after the funeral. We would get there. We would all gather there and have something to eat. We did that for Dad. We did that for Aunt Janet. And I believe we did that for my grandmother.
That for your dad and Janet, but I'm saying there was some other stuff that we swung in there.
Oh, I'm sure. Because, I mean, it's a staple.
Yeah. But I've never, actually, we should just go there to eat.
Yeah.
I haven't done that.
Before we can't.
Looks like it's on the way out. Grab a meal.
Yeah, at one point we were trying to talk my uncle into buying it.
Yeah,
leaving California and be like, hey, why don't you buy Orchard Hall?
Well, I almost wanted to buy it because I heard there was the bowling lane out in the back, or like a couple bowling lanes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, man. And then I heard they like tore it out or something to that effect.
I know one of the things, one of my cousin's kids, his son, he was like, I think we should put golf simulators in there.
Yeah.
And the ceilings are too low.
That's the problem with golf simulators. Most places, they're like 8 feet, and anything that's like 8 feet is tough. Even 10 feet is kind of stretching it.
For
I forget,
optics, my grandmother bowled at
I bet.
At Orchard Hall. I can't tell you how many times I went to the Orchard Hall bowling alley with my grandmother, who
How many lanes do they have in there?
Don't remember. I mean, I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like 6, 7 years old.
Oh.
Just sitting there.
Yeah, we'll have to go there and eat.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe we'll go upstairs, see where the chair is.
I don't think it's there anymore because they did the renovations. Like they turned it into like they've got
a dwelling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's their home.
A dwelling in the hamlet.
There's a sitting place. A
dwelling in the hamlet, yes.
Some bedrooms, yeah.
All right. Well, Well, you say we get over to the Belaire House.
Yes.
Which, for sources, I have the official site of Belaire House Tours.
Mm-hmm.
They offer detailed historical accounts. They also include the 1893 coal mine explosion beneath the house.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a proximity to Native American burial grounds and a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
I also went to Skeptical Inquirer
Mm-hmm.
and American Hauntings Ghost Hunts. And there's actually some video investigations. So Paranormal Lockdown did an episode in season 2, episode 6, where they spent about 72 hours in the Belaire House, documenting their encounters with alleged paranormal entities, and exploring the house's haunted history.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was Paranormal Encounters. That was season 6, episode 2. And they just dived into the house's reputation as a portal to the spirit world, which they claim.
Yeah.
And that has actual like interviews and on-site explorations as well.
So for me, how I got introduced to this.
Unsolved Mysteries.
No. No, actually, I was
I'm
listening.
50-50 on that.
I know. I was listening to a podcast, and it was completely unrelated, and it was nurses. Like, there are these 3 nurses. You know, they get together. They do.
They talk about nurse stuff.
No, they talk about paranormal investigating. Like,
okay.
you know, they like to go with EVPs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they say that we always get something at the Belaire House and how it's supposed to be like the most haunted house in Ohio. And then they tell the story of the homeowner, how she came to own it. And then she tried to rent it out and that didn't go very well. So then she was like, I don't think I want to subject families to that. And that's when these, you know, you could get your block of time and you can go in and you can do an investigation. And the story from those nurses was pretty freaking compelling.
And it's got some pretty cool stories. You know, it's in a quiet town in Belaire, Ohio. It's at 1699 Belmont Street. And it's really into the group of America's most haunted locations. It seems ordinary. It's a slightly aging Victoria-style home. But for paranormal investigators, spiritualists, and horror enthusiasts, it's full of ghostly lore, legends, unexplained phenomena. It was built upon a tragedy, spiritual experimentation, mystical geography. It really kind of has like the trifecta of all the stuff. If you're into that, you know, those types of things, it's become synonymous with intense supernatural activity. Over the years, numerous visitors have reported apparitions, poltergeist activity, spiritual attacks, and basically we'll get into the beginning of how this all kind of started. So in 1847, what we'll call the Hetherington legacy begins. And so the story of the house begins in 1847 when Jacob Hetherington, a wealthy coal magnate, acquired the land. And his decision to build the home on this parcel was largely based on business. It was situated atop a massive coal mine. The location offered economic potential. However, it also sat disturbingly close to Native American burial grounds. Or not grounds, but actual caves. And this is an element that many spiritualists would later contribute to the home's paranormal energy, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So he was a prominent figure in the area, and the name became tied not to just wealth, but also to tragedy. The house was reportedly a comfortable home, but it was also plagued by death from its earliest days. So about 50 years from its inception, in 1893, they had a coal mine disaster, and the tragedy struck beneath the house when an explosion tore through coal mine number 1, killing 42 workers. This catastrophic event had a wide-reaching emotional impact, not the least of which was the belief that the land itself had become spiritually tainted.
Right.
That was running around, the...
Cursed!
Cursed, exactly. The energy of the lost lives, many believed, was absorbed by the home built atop the disaster. Psychic mediums and paranormal experts often point to this event as a catalyst for the spiritual disturbances that followed.
Was the house already there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. That's the...
I thought so. I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah. He built a home, and it was already there. So in the 1900s, Edwin Hetherington and the Seance era. So now you got all this stuff. So following the deaths of several...
Are you guys mad at us?
So following the deaths of several family members, including his beloved sister, I think it's Lydia or Lead, Edwin fell into deep grief, refusing to accept her passing, and he turned to spiritualism.
Yes.
It's a classic story with all this stuff.
I had a dime.
Yep. And at this time, in the early 1900s, if you listen to some of our other episodes, this was a practice that was sweeping across the United States.
Oh, yes.
In the late 19th and early 20th centuries. We get into that big in a lot of our earlier episodes, and where it really swept was you had the Civil War. Well, you had a Revolutionary War, you had the Civil War, but the Civil War, there was so much bloodshed.
Yes.
A massive amount of bloodshed, and people were just trying to figure out how to handle the loss of all their loved ones as a part of that war. And so turning to spiritualism was a big, big deal through there, and they would hold these types of seances all over the place. So Edwin began holding seances inside the Belaire House in this desperate effort to communicate with her spirit. This era is considered pivotal in the house's haunted history. Spiritualists today suggest that Edwin's activities may have opened portals to other realms. Mm-hmm. Whether through accidental summoning or failed closure rituals, it's believed that these early seances let something into the home that has never left. I want to pause for a point because I put the verbiage of failed closure rituals on purpose.
Yeah.
How in the hell do you know that you did a closed ritual properly? And I know someone's going to say, well, nothing happens again. And it's like, this bothers me so much because I believe in good and evil. I believe that there are these old spirits, and I believe they are so much wiser among their ways than we could ever dream of.
Because they're as old as time.
Because they literally are old as time.
Yeah.
And yet
they've had so much time to learn from us.
So much time to adapt. And just to be better at what they do.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so naive and narcissist at the best, because to think that you could just have that ability to do a closure ritual and you think that thing follows some stupid rules like that.
Exactly. I mean,
it's just so shallow to me. It's so shallow in science.
I'm going to jump in for a second because there are in the New Agey occultists circles. Yeah. There's rituals for everything. There's a procedure to open said ritual, have said ritual, and your procedure to close it. Same with your sessions with your seance. Same with your session with your Ouija board. Like, there's supposed to be this proper way that you open and close your sessions. And that's fine for something that wants to follow the rules. We are talking about, because let's be honest, the evil in this world is the evil that rebelled against God. So if they aren't going to follow God's rules, what makes you think they're going to follow our rules?
Well,
or your perceived rules.
But I'm going to go to the point of, somebody says, well, these got to be open to get out through here. No, I think they're just out here.
Yeah, they're already
here. And you
here.
either give them permission or not.
Yes.
So when they see
when you're having your ritual,
your opening ritual, that's
giving them permission.
That's a defiance against the law and order of things. And you're giving them permission
correct
to come to you.
Yes.
So ultimately, yes, I will contest that the closure ritual would be you breaking that invitation.
Yeah. But that's not part of it.
That's not a closure ritual. That's just denying some entity the effect that entity to have said effect to you. Yeah, the opening and closure, like the portals thing, I have a real problem with that. I really do. I was talking to one person who was trying to like get me on the same wavelength with portals. And so I go, well, what's your opinion on multiverses with science? She looked me straight in the eye. She goes, yeah, that's stupid. And I was like, yeah,
portals are a thing.
No, and I was just like, we're done here. It's like,
okay, bye.
We're done here. Have a great day. I wish you all the best on all your endeavors. You know,
take luck and care.
I'm gonna pray for you often. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a fun moment.
I'm sure.
And that's the dumb stuff that's why I get into these conversations, because I want that little pivotal moment where I'm going to ask the same thing that you're doing, but I'm going to put it in a different way.
Yep.
And
same thing, different context.
And if you say, now she was like, hey,
I agree.
I agreed.
Okay. All right. Now you know who you're talking to.
We're across the board here, and you're genuinely into this idea from a very big, wide conceptual lens. But yeah, it was hysterical. So, so yes, this era of the seances and everything is pivotal. And they really just believe that these early seances let something into the home that just never left. And so this bumps us up into the mid 20th century. And throughout the 20th century, the Belaire House was passed from one owner to another. This happens a lot with these historical places. And it would often fall into periods of just straight out abandonment. And during these times, neighbors reported strange phenomena, which I found...
Oh, those are the best.
Yeah, I found very interesting with this. Lights would turn on when no one was inside.
Yeah.
The shadowy figures at the windows and these unexplainable sounds coming from within the house. Rumors grew, and this fed the house's reputation. Though largely anecdotal, these accounts added to the Belaire's house eerie mystique and attract the attention of local ghost hunters and thrill seekers.
Yep.
And they started congregating through here. So now there's the other spin. As we get into the legends and lore of the Belaire House, there's the whole Native American end of it.
Right.
And so long before the Hetheringtons ever laid claim to the property, the land upon the Belaire House stands was sacred to the Shawnee tribe. Nearby burial mounds and ceremonial caves were left undisturbed for centuries. But the advent of industry, particularly coal mining, disturbed this sacred ground. And many spiritualists believe this desecration awoke a latent spiritual unrest. The spirits of the ancestors displaced by mining and construction may have been angered or provoked, lending a dark energy to the Belaire House and its surroundings.
Right.
And one of the most popular paranormal theories involves the Belaire House's location on a supposed lie line, and it's a metaphysical alignment of energy fields and earth chakras. It's either ley lines or lie lines. I think it's ley lines.
It's ley lines.
Ley lines, and it's said to enhance spiritual activity, making places like Belaire House these spiritual hot zones. It's got all this stuff going for it, and a lot of things. So you could knock one down and it'd be like, well, what about this, and what about that, and what about the Native American thing? And this house is special in the haunted realm because it has these kind of like 5 or 6 Frankenstein bolting parts onto it that add for credibility, even if one were to fall down. So it's a perfect recipe for this type of interest for people. Then, due to the seances conducted by Edwin, it's believed that spiritual portals exist in the house, and these doorways to the other side are said to be active, meaning that spirits can move freely between realms. Some investigators claim to have identified more than one portal, most notably the attic and the basement. Closing these portals, however, is a dangerous and controversial task. I'm putting as a disclaimer, some believe that the spirits are anchored to them and that disturbing the portals could cause spiritual backlash or even possession. And so this is where I run around in circles with this. We've been doing this for 5 years. And I run around in circles with this, and we go to some of these places and check this stuff out. And I'm more and more the fact of the portals thing not really being a thing. I've seen enough evil with my own 2 eyes.
Yeah.
And I've also seen it just spawn out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I've watched it travel around in that specific area.
Yeah. Yep.
Where I saw it and I laid witness to it. And this is a pivotal moment where I turned when I was working part-time at the grocery store during COVID, helping Amanda out. And it was a great day. Everything was nice. People were nice.
Yep.
I'm sitting there at the register. It's a smooth day. Everything's good. People are smiling. It's nice. And then the line picked up and people were still smiling because we're in that small town area where people small talk.
Yeah.
I'm just saying for people that are in cities listening to this and all that.
Right.
We're in a small town area where people small talk when they're in line. So they don't mind waiting in line generally too long, and there's a time.
And it's a small town.
And
so
it wasn't
they're
this. So
unfamiliar
they're
with
not
each other.
unfamiliar with each other, but even that, they were just small talking because it was COVID and people were in their homes and they're just small talking. And this one person came in and something was wrong with them, just wrong. And they put out just this, it was like a bomb. And then the next thing you know, it just got weird.
Yeah, you can see it follow. It's almost like it jumps from person to person to person.
No, this was like a bomb. Like this person just got brought in, bomb, boom, and then all of a sudden it just got cold, dark, and not in lighting or anything, but just mood and all that.
Yeah,
and me, I'm a good barometer for that kind of stuff. I know when things are going south. I know when things are going well. I know when we need to get out. I know when we need to run.
Yep.
And
we're going to go now.
Yeah, my spidey sense is like 100% on that. And I just sitting there and I'm watching this all unfold. And I never talked about it before in previous episodes because it just didn't kind of come around. But that was a pivotal moment for me where I looked and I was like, I don't believe in this portal shit anymore.
No.
I don't believe in any of this.
No.
They're out here.
Yeah.
We're all out here together.
Yep.
Even like the restful spirits of the Native Americans in the ground. Think about that for a second. How terrible that would be if you died and your spirit's just trapped in a certain area.
Yeah.
There's no salvation in that.
No.
There's none whatsoever.
No. That'd be
a prison.
That would be hell.
Yes.
Your own personal hell.
That's a personal hell in there.
Yeah.
So you got to have it one way or another. You can't say, oh, well, this is a peaceful burial ground, but this is their sacred place. And, if you disturb it 200 years later, they're going to have a problem with it. It's like, well, shouldn't there be some sort of salvation there where they move on? If you believe in the spirit world, that there shouldn't be a trapped spirit there. Now, this is what I think. I think the evil spirits that have been tormenting around and that have left, went against God. I'm sorry, I'm a Christian. This is where I'm going to go with this. If you have a problem with it, I really don't know where we go from here.
Yeah.
But the fact is I think there was the rebellion against God, and all of this is the ruse. All of this stuff. It's the ruse to make you say, I don't believe in what God's telling me. I think God's lying to me. Because at the end of the day, that's what the devil's trying to do.
Yeah.
It's just to get you to just not believe him. That's all. It's not whether he exists or not. Just, you know what? I don't think that's true. And how many times do you hear that? I don't think that's true, especially in the spiritual realm. I don't think that's true. And that's where I look and I'm like, oh, the devil's got you right there where he wants you. And so all of this stuff of portals and all of these things, I really think are just these. It's I hate the us versus them thing, but these are the anti-God group that's been around for millennia, centuries upon centuries, and they know every little trick in the book, and that's what they're trying to do is just get you to second guess the natural order of things. And more I see that through there. And like I said, I had that one moment where I saw it and I was like, you know what? There's no portal here. This ain't sitting on any crazy stuff. This is just a supermarket.
Right.
And then you'd have that one person that would argue, well, maybe there's something that this was built on. It's like, it doesn't happen all the time.
No.
It's not all the time. No. It's not crazy.
I believe that possession, maybe not like possession.
Yeah, like full out.
How it's perceived in film.
Yeah, there's levels.
I believe possession occurs and that a person can be possessed, obsessed, and consumed by darkness, evil,
definitely,
enter, whatever. And that person was simply a vessel. That was a vessel to deliver that evil. But I've also noticed that when a specific person or persons, if multiple people come in at the same time, so you can't really narrow it down to one specific person, but maybe, if they come in like a group.
But that could be the same thing, just fucking with you.
My point is that you can watch it affect everything around it. And of course, it'll affect it negatively because that's what it's there to do. And then you can watch that group leave and that negativity go with them. And that's what leads me to believe that whatever that is attached to them or to
well, and you've given permission
them.
For that. And this is where I'm not going to get into a deep theological dive on it, but this is the whole category of sin.
Right.
So there's temptation. Temptation tries to shove you to invite things in.
Yeah.
And that is the sin that you're committing when you say, I'm inviting this in. And it could be something subtle. There is layers to it. I'm a firm believer of it. It doesn't all just come in at once in a slamming door. It could be that just little invitation of you doing something you shouldn't be doing, but you're just doing it anyways to be defiant or stubborn or what have you. And that's the slippery gateway of once you get in, and then you're just toted down the line. And the next thing you know, you're like, whoa, I was miles away. Like where I was miles away. I don't know how to get back. And that's the dark horror of that kind of stuff. You see that with people who are, I think you see it the best with people who abuse substances.
Yeah.
Because it just starts out as this little thing. Like every drug normally starts out socially. Or it's to numb that little bit of pain you're having. But it's innocent. It's this innocent little thing. And then the next thing you know, you're doing shit that you would have never have done in your life ever.
Right.
And you're doing just these crazy things. And I've seen this with people I know where I've just seen it start and then all of a sudden it just spans off to this mess. And it you don't just jump to that. You don't go there. Some do, but most it's this long, you're chasing the bait.
Right.
And the bait leads you away. And then all of a sudden you turn and look and you're like, I am way off course. I am way off path. Yeah. And you don't know how to get back. And that's the desperation. And
oh no.
Yeah. And I don't think that's, like I said, I don't believe in the portals and the dimensions and all that. I think there's one. And we're all on it.
Yep.
Every single one of us, every single thing, all of it. We're all on this one dimension.
Mm-hmm.
It's called now.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Because you think about it, you can't go into the past, you can't go into the future. Right now, as we're doing this is now. And, people could say, well, your now was yesterday, and I'm listening to this today. But yeah, this is your now. And your now that you're listening to this, we're in a current now. That same now,
right.
but we're working. That's what we will be doing. I guarantee it.
Can't confirm.
But I think, I had such a hard time getting into the whole portals and dimensions and all of that stuff. And people can tell me whatever they want about space. You know what? You can't go out there. So space is a whole different deal. Mm-hmm. And that's a whole different mechanism that...
Unless some billionaire's going to let you get on one of their rockets.
Well, yeah. And you're only going to go... Just about...
So far.
You're only going to go about 100 feet past the atmosphere into space, or you're going to go around the moon. Like right now, that's all you can do, or go around the Earth. But still, like, you're just going like 10 feet out into space.
But... how cool would it be if Elon, instead of being like, I think we should colonize Mars, was like, you know what? Let's see if we can get that Star Trek Enterprise operation going.
Well, that's the two. So, no, this is the interesting thing with space travel, just to get off on a side tangent a bit, I promise, folks. So that's what's neat about the space race right now. Mm-hmm. You have... from Amazon, Bezos, he believes in space travel, and that's what he's looking to do, and that's all he does.
Enterprise.
He would be the Enterprise guy.
Gotcha.
Or you have the, was it the Virgin Airlines guy, the guy with the long blonde hair? I forget his name. It's because I didn't plan any of this. And Richard Branson.
Okay.
Richard Branson's also doing the same thing, kind of traveling through there. Elon Musk is colonization.
Right.
Actually get on, terraform, colonize, and that's, Mars is really the only option that we have any kind of capability for. But I think it's interesting in this regard, and people say, oh, it's a waste of time and blah, blah, blah. I disagree. I think it's pretty incredible because we have 3 pioneer people that are going in kind of separate directions. And if they all kind of get there at the same time, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
And to have Elon Musk go over to Mars and colonize Mars, which I personally think it is 100% achievable.
Yeah.
Because he's got it all. Mm-hmm. He's got the SpaceX program. He's got the SpaceX program, which is incredible because he's reusing rockets.
Yes.
So now they're landing.
Yes.
And they can take off.
Yes.
That's a huge feat in its
Reusable.
own right. And the reusable rockets and
that's
whatnot.
why we still have NASA.
Yeah. So, but also Tesla, as far as a company, that's a big deal because he's got the robotics.
Yep.
He's getting into the AI. Mm-hmm. So if he can get a transporter, and think about this for a second, what if he just launches, say, 200 robots?
Yeah.
And a bunch of material.
Yep.
Down into Mars, they land and they get everything staged and prepped. They handle all the harsh elements, all of the difficult stuff, and they build the base stuff, like the foundational stuff or whatever, like labs or whatever you have. And then humans could be transported over there. I mean, that's not unrealistic. It's close.
Yeah.
It's really close. And then for him, everything that he has, he could put the Starlink stuff all around Mars for communications. And then in there, have the transportation with the cars. They run on electricity. So if he can harness the electricity, which they're working on the big storage banks and all that other stuff, it's not far out of the realm. And then that'll create a whole industry where you go over to Mars, which Mars is unregulated. There's
That's
no
true.
government bureaucracy and bullshit over there.
Yeah.
So people could just build and do whatever the fuck they want over there. And then you have like the Bransons and the Bezos that are creating these transport type of vehicles through there where they'll explore around space and go. I'm rooting for it because I mean, are you kidding me? That would just be absolutely crazy if that worked out.
Yeah.
I would love to see it in my lifetime. But I really think like the child that is 6 years old right now or 5, I think there's a real possibility that in their 40s, there will be a opportunity where someone their age or younger, especially younger, they could have this choice where they'll be like, I'm going to either live my life on Mars or Earth.
Yeah.
And that's crazy
to
think that that's it could be less than 100 years away. That's just phenomenal. Anyhow. I think the portals, I don't buy it. I think we're all in the same plane. I think we're all in today, the now. That's the good spirits, the bad spirits, everybody. And I think we're all moving in the same direction. So in the early 2000s, social worker Kristen Lee purchased the Belaire House, unaware of its haunted reputation.
Yeah.
She intended to make it a family home.
Yep.
But then soon she experienced things with no rational explanation could account for it all. Kristen's experiences were terrifying from the beginning.
Yep.
She reported being physically assaulted by unseen forces, being pinned down in bed, pushed by invisible hands, scratched during the night. Her dog was thrown against a wall, and doors would slam shut on their own accord. Electrical disturbances were constant. Lights flickered. Electronics malfunctioned. And disembodied voices echoed through the home. In one chilling instance, Kristen claims to have seen a full-bodied apparition walk from one room into another, only to vanish. After enduring these traumatic events for several years, Kristen finally abandoned the home. However, she never severed her connection to it entirely. Rather than selling it, she chose to open it to the public, allowing paranormal investigators to document their experiences. Kristen has since become a vocal figure in the paranormal community. She shares her stories in interviews, documentaries, and podcasts. Her testimony has validated many others who experience strange phenomena within the Belaire House. So there's Emily Davis, one of the most frequently encountered spirits, a young girl who is said to have drowned near the property. Her presence is often detected via EVPs, which is the electronic voice phenomena, and she is known for interacting with visitors using spirit boxes and Ouija boards. However, not all investigators are convinced of Emily's innocence. Some believe that the entity impersonating a young girl could be something much darker, a demon masquerading as a child to gain trust and exploit emotional vulnerability. I couldn't agree more. Shadow figures are a reoccurring element in the house. These dark silhouettes are often seen darting through the hallways and standing ominously in corners. We did a whole entire episode on shadow men.
We did.
Unlike typical ghost sightings, these shadows lack features and often invoke this sense of dread. Paranormal experts suggest these entities are not human spirits at all, but rather interdimensional beings or demonic presences feeding on fear and energy. Then there's Jacob and Edwin Hetherington themselves are both thought to still inhabit the Belaire House. Ghost hunting teams have recorded what they believe are direct communications with the Hetheringtons, including intelligent responses to questions and personal references to family members. So there's numerous teams and individuals that have investigated the Belaire House. There's well-known paranormal groups that are featured on television and podcasts, and their findings have been consistent. The EVPs, there's multiple electronic recordings that capture voices, often answering direct questions or mimicking human speech. There's the poltergeist activity. Objects have been seen flying across rooms, doors slam violently, and furniture is known to move on its own. Apparitions, both shadowy and full-bodied entities, have been photographed and seen. Physical contact, investigators have reported scratches, hair pulling, and sudden cold touches. Time slips. Some guests claim to have lost time or experienced moments where reality shifted, a phenomenon believed to be linked to the spiritual portals in the home. Honestly, I want to go to this place.
I do too.
This is the place I want to go to.
Same.
So today, the Belaire House operates as a paranormal research site. Visitors can book overnight investigations, guided tours, or spiritual workshops. Kristen Lee emphasizes the need for respectful interaction and strictly forbids rituals or attempts to close portals, believing such actions could worsen the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the risks, the house draws a constant stream of visitors, from amateur ghost hunters to veteran mediums, all who are warned the spirits of the Belaire House are active, aware, and not always welcoming. So it's more than just a haunted house. It's more than a haunted house. Jeez. It's more than a haunted house.
Say.
No, but it's a living legend, the house is.
It is.
It's one of loss, grief, spiritual unrest. Over a century now, it's captivated the imagination of those who believe in the afterlife and challenged the skepticism of non-believers. And with its roots and tragedies, its ties to sacred ground, and its catalog of terrifying encounters, the Belaire House remains one of the most intriguing and horrifying destinations in America. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, one thing is certain. This is a house that's just not going to be forgotten.
Right.
This is going to just keep trucking along. And I tell you what, with it being in Ohio, that's not far for us.
No. So I did look into it.
Mm-hmm.
What was compelling for me was these three women. I think they were nurses, or one of them was.
Sure.
I'm not entirely certain, but they do this pretty regularly. You know, they'll go to other places, but they're like, you know, if we want to have an experience, you know, if we're out to capture something because it's been a while, they're like, we just can't turn away from it. They're almost like compelled to go there pretty regularly. Mm-hmm. And one of the times they were there, they were bringing stuff in. And like they each have their thing, you know, you're responsible to bring in this stuff. Like there's one that that brings in like the recording stuff. Because I think they do video, and I think they do EVP. So they bring all their stuff in. And one of them was on the phone with a friend, you know, just walking through and doing like a FaceTime. And they were walking up the staircase. And there's either a stained glass window or there's a mirror on the staircase. And whoever they were talking to on FaceTime was like, hey, wait a minute. Who's there with you? And she's like, nobody, because they're both out, you know, getting the stuff out of the car. And whoever they were talking to was like, no, there's someone there with you. Who is that? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she went back down the stairs, and her friend was like, I want you to turn around. And when she turned around, she could see either an image in that mirror or the stained glass window. And I was like, that's compelling. They also talk about, I think it's like a living room or a parlor, and it's got like a piano in it. And, you know, there's signs, no seances, but that room, like everything in that room is coated with candles and candle wax. So you know that people were there.
Yeah.
Doing seances. And yeah, but they're saying like, yeah, you get all of that. You get EVPs, you can hear, people walking and talking. They say that there are not only benevolent spirits, but malevolent spirits. Like there's some that are malicious, and like you gotta be on your toes. And I was like,
stay frosty.
Yeah. No, it was pretty compelling, because I was like, okay, note to self, Got my pen and I wrote Belaire House.
Yeah, right.
I was like, definitely gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, I definitely want to see how far it is away from here. I'd like to check it out and more just do kind of like a recon.
Yeah.
And go from there. And more curiosity just to see what all the fuss is about. I know every place that anybody's ever told me that is haunted, any place that has weird stuff going on, every time I go to something like that, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
All right, question. If you went there,
Sure.
and you did experience something, would that change your mind or would it just give you pause?
Here's the thing. I'm not going to really say it's a make up my mind or change my mind thing. So it's about 7 hours, 8 hours away from us. It's not bad.
No.
So it depends on what would happen, but let's say something happens.
Okay.
Just in general. I think what it would do more than anything is it would confirm to me that there's the evil presence piece of it and there's a game at play.
Yes.
Especially if I just went there and I didn't do anything. Like I didn't frig around with a Ouija board or do any of that stuff. I wouldn't even want to go in with a medium, quote unquote. Like I just, honestly, I'd want to go in by myself.
Okay.
I wouldn't even want you there with me. I'd want to go in there by myself, walk around, kind of freely explore. And I mean, I go everywhere with my rosary. I'm not going without that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to play that kind of stuff because that's the stuff I believe in. I'm going to have my miraculous medal on. I'm going to have my cross, my crucifix that I wear. Those are the three things I'm going to have because I have those everywhere I go, except when I sleep. And the miraculous medal I sleep with. So if something were to happen, that's where I would believe that there are darker forces at work.
Yeah.
Because I try to stay in the light as much as possible as I can. And I would think that that's just an area where if I was fishing for fish, that's where I'd go. Because that's where the fish are biting.
Yeah.
That's really how I look at it.
Yeah. Yep.
Again, I'm going to stay on this whole thing that we're on the same plane. We're on the same thing. We're all in the same place. But if fish are biting there, I'm not going to go there wanting to believe. Like, I'm just going to go there. And if something happens, something happens. Now, let's say something happens. It's going to confirm my belief that I believe there's evil in this world. And it's vying for your soul.
Yeah.
Period. End of statement.
Yeah.
And the more you try to dance with that devil, the devil's got better steps than you.
Yeah.
You're not better.
No.
So you have a choice. You walk towards that or you walk the other way. And that would solidify my belief with things. Now, let's say it turned wily and say I did take some of that with me. That would even confirm more that I let something in because I went somewhere I shouldn't have went. Because I knew in my mind that that wasn't a good move, but I disrespected God and went anyways. And now God's like, I can't help you.
You have to deal with your consequences.
You have to deal with your consequences now. You made this decision of your own free will. And so you have to come to me now.
Right.
I can't come to you.
Yep.
We've been coming to each other because we have this mutual relationship, but you chose this.
Yes.
And you knew you weren't supposed to do that. And that's where the stakes are high. It's where the stakes are really high. And again, this is where I equate it to substance abuse. You know that's not going to do well for you.
Right.
But you're like, I don't care. I don't care anymore.
Just gotta.
I don't care, or, just this one time or whatever. But you know that you're in the wrong. You're not in the right. And even if you convince yourself you're in the right, I think you're just lying to yourself to justify your urges and your temptations. So that's how I would look at that. And the stakes are high because we have a peaceful house. We have a blessed house. But you know what? We have a lot of books here that are on some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I don't pull them out and brandish them all over, but we used them for research for this podcast.
Yeah.
And so I would like to think that if I was walking into a dark place, I would like to think that my faith is going to carry me through that. Mm-hmm. Even if I chose to walk through there. That might be arrogant, and I might pay for something like that. But I think if I would definitely, before I went there, I would go to Mass.
100%.
I'd confess my sins.
Do full confession.
I do a full confession. I would take the Eucharist, and then I'd literally go to that place. I'd go to a morning Mass. I would do all that.
Yep.
I'd say the Rosary.
Yep.
I'd try to figure out a way to get a plenary. No, I'll save the plenary indulgence for after.
Right.
And then basically I would go there, and I would come back, and I'd confess.
Again.
And I would work as hard as possible to stay in God's graces.
Yep.
And try to be in the best position possible to receive his blessings. And I would look at it more as an educational thing. I think that's the intent too.
Yeah.
If you're doing it for yourself and self-fame, I think you're really playing with dynamite there.
Yeah.
You're really playing with a loaded gun. But for me, I would go in there to say, God, I want to learn more about this so I can help others.
Yes.
And bring them closer to the light, to you.
Yeah.
So I know I'm taking this chance, but I have it in good faith that I'm doing this for the best reasons.
I'm going in with good intentions.
I'm going in with good intentions. And
to inform?
Well, to inform, but also be a soldier of God.
Right.
You know, because I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a soldier of God. Mm-hmm. Every day, no matter what I do, where I am, I'm representing God first, and everything else second. And to be a soldier of God, you got to go where the work is.
Yeah.
And to me, that would be part of the work, because I feel like, how can you help somebody if you don't know what they're going through? And I think you need to see that piece of things. That's why I always really had a hard time with like therapists that have never had substance abuse and they think they know how to help someone who's a part of it.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care what you learned in college. You have no idea what.
Have you ever dealt with that monkey? Have you
have you ever been in that situation where,
Yeah.
I'm just going to suck this dick to get this rock? No.
Yeah, no.
You're an academic.
Exactly.
You're an academic. You've been in school your whole life. And sure, you learned all these things from books from people and all that, but you don't know that situation. No. And neither do I.
No.
I'm not claiming that I know it, but I think there's a lot of power in all that. And that's why a lot of these vets have trouble with their experiences, because they are.
No one can inform on their experiences because no one else has experienced what they've experienced except
them.
Fellow soldiers.
And fellow soldiers, yeah. And here's the thing, like, how in the world is a vet, an armed service member in wartime, how are they going to come home and go to somebody who's an academic that hasn't left their comfy life,
right?
And they're going to be able to have a conversation with this person. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. The vet is going to introduce trauma into the therapist.
So it's funny you mentioned that.
Oh, really?
I listened to a podcast, and it's two retired detectives. And they've brought on it started with just the two of them. They're twin brothers who both ended up working.
Were they in the same, like?
They were.
Really?
And they were in two completely different divisions.
Okay.
One was sex crimes and the other was
I was waiting to hear they were partners or something like that.
No.
What a mind job that would be.
But they worked for the same, like, precinct.
Precinct, yeah.
So their poor mother, she would hear, like, there's a high-speed chase and all hands are on deck. And she would be trying to reach out to find out, because she would hear officer down, and she's just trying to confirm if it's one of her children.
Sure.
That type of deal. And they were like, I never really thought of that. But they were talking, and they have since brought on a third retired, he's more of a forensic
investigator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were talking about what they've experienced just as
on the
policemen
job.
On the job. And they were talking about how anytime you expel your firearm, you have to be debriefed.
Yes.
And anytime that there's a major incident that you're a part of, there's not only a debrief, but they want you to talk to somebody. And they were talking about, and each of them were talking about, like, their worst cases. Like, these are the things that when they close their eyes, this is what they see. And they were talking about, they tell you have to see the therapist. And so it was the sex crimes detective. He had a horrible child case, and he went in to the therapist, and this case almost broke him. He turned heavily into alcohol to cope,
I bet,
if you will. And he was talking about, without even getting into the details, just like the high level of what happened. And the therapist started to cry.
Yeah. Could you imagine?
And he's like, and I just gave, like, the bird's eye view. Like, it's not even what actually the whole picture of everything that went down. He's like, it was just a small part of it. And then the other guy's like, oh yeah, well, I had the same thing happen with this. And they're like, I can't burden someone with my issues. They're like, so we have to find a way to
Well, you just got to figure out a way
to
work through it. And this is what everybody's responsibility is with their own trauma.
Yep.
Stop spilling it onto everyone else.
Yeah.
Everyone else has got enough bullshit in their life.
Yeah.
And we're really at this turn of the corner in life and culture and all that right now. It's like, I'm sorry. I don't care about your trauma. I care about your struggle.
Yeah.
Your struggle's a different thing, but your trauma that's something you got to handle.
Yeah.
That's something you got to figure out. And if you're a mess over it, I'm sorry, but you weren't given the right tools growing up and the right experiences to be kind of tough in this situation. And like, I started coming up with that when my dad told me this story of him in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Where, they were going way up north to deliver stuff for the platoons that were going up into uncharted territory or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they would go up into areas and they would need munitions.
They're going to set up a camp or
base
or
camp
whatever.
or whatever. They need stuff up there. They don't carry it in.
No.
So my dad and like this other guy are the ones driving trucks up, and they got this stuff, and they heard like a noise, and they go off to the side of this trail, and they're laying down, and they would walk single file. These big battalions of the northern, literally to hide their numbers. That's where Star Wars got it from, and basically they were sitting there and literally just this single file walked through the VC that was walking through. And I asked him, I go, how long was it? He goes, it was like a couple hours. And it's just like to sit there for a couple hours and know that any kind of noise, a smell, anything. That's all they had to do. They were literally walking like 10 feet in front of them.
Yep.
But the jungle was so thick, like you couldn't see anything. And they were walking single file to go down there. And it's like, if you got to piss, what if you got to fart? What if you got a rumbly tummy, and you're sitting there, all these things can kill you.
Yep.
Any one of them. And then you hope the person next to you doesn't just freak out.
Yeah.
And lose it. because after a while, and he said, yep, we just laid there, had pistols laying on their stomachs, had their pistols right in front of them. That's all they got is pistols. Hey, you got like 10 rounds. That's it. And that's, before a whole bunch of people find out about you. And so how do you explain that to someone back home that has been in
just had a very bad day?
Okay. No, but I'm just saying that's been in academia their whole life. They haven't left their classroom, and then they went and got an office, and they haven't left their office. And when they leave their office, they go on vacation, quote unquote. I don't care how much they learn in school. You're not going to be able to talk to someone like that.
No.
And that's where I really believe in the American Legions, the VAs, where these guys can get together and have drinks together and
commiserate
and, basically hang out and know that everyone there is the same.
Yeah, they all get it.
And they all get it. And that's how you get through it, is not by talking about it, but hanging out. Mm-hmm. And maybe it will come out, but you're talking to somebody who knows your truth.
Yeah.
Knows your truth, knows your struggle.
Has been through at least the same thing or worse.
And doesn't need to deal with your trauma, but just knows your struggle.
Yeah.
And I think if you know someone's struggle, you can help them conquer their trauma. But if you don't know their struggle, there's nothing there. So to sit there and complain that someone who doesn't know your struggle and you want them to help you with your trauma, that's a losing situation, without a doubt. But the Belaire House, if I were to go there and something were to happen, that's how I would look at it. I'd look at it as I'm going there as a soldier of God to learn, and that I could help others and help them with their struggle with darkness. Again, this rant went somewhere. It's to get that struggle of darkness. And I've had that darkness in my life, in my past. And I've mentioned it from time to time with either depression or running around with bad groups of people, witnessing things that I just can't erase in my mind, and I'm going to see them forever. And I don't talk to anybody about them because it's just, there's no point in it. There really isn't.
Yeah.
I move forward and I change, and then you walk towards God.
Yeah. Yep.
So with that being said, what are we doing next week?
We're going to get culty.
I know. And here's one that
I can't believe we haven't done it.
We haven't done it, but man, I'm excited.
The Moonies.
The Moonies.
We're going to do the Moonies.
Yes.
I'm embarrassed
A
at
classic.
how long it's been on the list.
Well, there's so many. That's the problem. And we don't like to just do classic after classic after classic.
And
we want to do a classic and then do like a weird, unique
timely.
one.
Yeah.
Or we'll do one that's just totally insane. It just doesn't even is that a thing?
All right. So before we wrap this up, out of all the cults that we've done so far, which one has been the craziest for you?
Surprisingly, the craziest one to me that I just couldn't wrap my head around was The Way Down.
Yes.
That was sad and crazy.
Yes, it was.
Because love...
Love Has Won.
Love Has Won. It was crazy, but I looked and I was like, I see it though.
Yeah, I can see how they got there.
I see how they got there. I see how they proceeded.
Yeah.
I even see the ending. I understood it all.
Yeah.
But The Way Down, I just couldn't wrap my head around how superficial all of it was. But yet every single one of them in there was way in and thought it was real.
Yeah.
And it was the most superficial thing I've ever seen. I mean, a weight loss religion. Just
losing weight for God.
Losing weight for Jesus.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just you say that and you can't help but laugh your ass off.
Yeah.
If I were to tell anybody, hey, I'm going to introduce you to this group, I lost weight. This just shows you, again, this is sin right here where, you will just throw away all reality to get something. This is the lust thing, the idolatry.
Yeah.
Where you're, idolatry, they always say, is just after an idol and praying to a false idol. But if you're chasing an image of yourself, you're idolizing that image of yourself, and you're creating an idol.
Right.
And
For me, it was the word of life.
Okay.
Because none of it was positive.
That's so true. It was brutal.
It was brutal from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
And they stayed.
Yeah.
And then it just got worse
and worse.
and worse.
See, for me, that wasn't...
Well, actually, there was that one brief moment when it was positive. But that's when the guy who started it wasn't doing it. It was another guy.
Rick.
When he moved to Rochester, the guy who founded it.
Rick,
And when they were actually, I don't know, functioning like a church.
It was Rick White,
Yeah.
There, I get that because I know there's a lot of people who are, I'm just going to say it for what it is, weak and need leadership. Like, can't do anything without a leader going.
Right.
And then the problem is if you don't prop those up and build those people up, but you go the reverse and you beat them down, they just become even more dependent because I'm weak and I'm a failure and I need you to get through the day.
There are so many churches. There are so many other churches.
That's why you got to be careful with the ones you walk into.
Yeah.
You got to have that trial period. You can't just walk in
and be like, oh, this is my
and
church.
go guns a-blazing. Jesus is great. It's like, no, the Jesus is great part I agree with. But the building that you do it in and the congregation of people around, you got to be a little kind of guarded.
Yeah.
Because even going to our church, I was guarded for, I want to say, a solid 3 months. And we were going every Sunday.
Yep.
So that was 12 runs, let's say.
Yeah.
But and I wanted, like, it felt right. I wanted it, but I was like, nope, especially with the stuff we do.
Yeah.
You know, and Word of Life was right 2 towns over.
Exactly.
And I just was very careful with it and meeting Father. And we asked him a lot of really kind of big questions. Like, how do you know, I know I did. We had separate talks, you know, but I asked him some really, really, how'd you get into the priesthood? Why? Do you regret it? Like, all that stuff I asked.
Yeah.
You know, do you regret it? And, you know, how do you deal with the struggle when things aren't going your way, you know, and all of that type of stuff. I don't think if you've had that conversation with your spiritual leader, you're playing with fire. I'm just going to say.
Yeah.
Or you're being a lot more trusting than you should be.
And just for optics, I want to put this out there. Where we are located, there are churches, for example, in the area where we live, in the town that or the village, whatever, that we live in, there are 1, 2,
there's a lot
3,
here.
4, 5.
It's
at
a
least
small village.
5 within
walking distance.
within a block of each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean.
Yeah, because there's the Catholic, and then right around the corner is the Episcopalian.
Yep.
And there's the Baptist around the corner from there.
I believe there's a Methodist.
There's the Methodist, and then there's that non-denominational one
the
that
river,
went in the old
River Valley.
or something like that.
Yeah.
That's 5 right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really within a 2-block walking radius in a circle.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. No, I think you got to have that dialogue and you got to have those questions. You got to, ask the hard ones. And, what are you trying to offer? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to, and if there's a humbleness and a humility, those are all the things you're looking for. A meekness, and meek's not weak. Meek is in control and staying low. And
they're not brash.
Yeah. Yeah. Without a doubt. That'd be a good thing to come up with, like the list of things you should ask a potential priest or spiritual leader.
It would. Yeah.
That would be a cool thing.
Well, why don't we
Would
work on
anybody
that?
use it? Who knows, but I don't know.
Here's the thing. People don't know what they don't know.
It's so true.
If you're seeking something, you should have questions. You should at least have a plan for whatever you're seeking. What is your end goal? What are you trying to achieve?
Well, like for me, any Protestant or non-denominational Christian that was incepted year 1500 and over to current time.
To current, yeah.
My big question to all of them is what happened the first 1500 years from 30 to 1500? What was everybody doing? And if you think they were wrong, why would God let that type of thing happen for so long?
Yeah.
For 1500 years. Father Mike Schmitz put that in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like on my hip holster around that. Because when Moses went up on Mount Sinai to get the 10 Commandments and he was with God, those Israelites were down there for just a day and they threw that golden calf up to start idolizing it. And God let that go for about like 3 days, and put the squash on that.
Hey, Moses, you got to go take care of
You got to
stuff.
go down, and he put the squash on that.
I just remember.
And to think that there would be a church, and I'm just going to defend the Catholic Church, for a bit. If a church claiming to be the direct descendants of Christ, all the way from Simon Peter, who Christ gave the church to, all the way to the current Pope, the lineage is there.
Yeah.
Look it up. How could that church exist this long if it was wrong? Why would God do that?
Remember.
And no, I've asked that to a handful of Protestants, and they're just stoned in their tracks. Like, I never really thought about that. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it's a good thing to think about. It's a really good thing.
It's weird that nobody brings that up.
Well, no one brings it up because, again, you nailed it. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
It's your biggest blind spot in your whole entire life.
Yep.
And you don't realize that till you get older because now you're like, wow, there's just stuff I didn't even know. Yeah, I mean, there's just no better way to put it. You don't know what you don't know. And once you know that you don't know something, now you're like, fuck.
Now I gotta know it.
I gotta at least get a handle on this, but the fact that you've been existing so long and you blindly just didn't think about or consider things, I think it's cool. It's called growth.
So a fun part of turning 50 is now I just have stuff come out of my eyes, apparently all the time. That's cool. That's fun.
Well,
big fan.
Aside from that, what would rule number 1 be?
Wash your eyes. No Ouija boards.
No. Number 2.
No dolls.
3.
No capes.
4.
No blood rituals.
5.
No cults, satanic or otherwise.
You're going to figure that out next week.
Go learn.
6.
No apathy. You need to act to help enact a positive change in this world.
Definitely. Smile more. Help people. Put that...
As Dalton said, be nice.
Be nice. Yeah. Next row.
Don't engage with black identities. Don't do it as bad.
Yeah. What do we got left here?
Just listen.
Yeah.
Then, number 9, which I think our last 2 are the most important. No pedophiles.
No pedophiles.
And if you have something to do it.
Do it.
Do it.
And with that being said, have an amazing day, a lovely week.
And make good choices.
Take care.